On the 26th of March 2001, WCW Monday Nitro aired for the very last time. Until now. Eric Bischoff has rebought the rights to WCW. Nitro is back, and we're trying to build a company capable of toppling the mighty WWE. Hello and welcome to the first episode in my WCW Total Extreme Wrestling series. I'm Kev, and firstly, an apology to those of you who've been waiting and asking and desperate for Total Extreme Wrestling videos on the channel. I just totally lost motivation for the WWE one that I was doing, in large part because of the database I was using and the fact that anyone we signed just couldn't get over. They just weren't any good. So I found a different database. This is a Fleishy database update as of August or July this year, so it's pretty bang up to date. We've reactivated WCW. There's been a couple of other little database tweaks along the way that don't really impact us, but impact the wider wrestling world. So similar to the WWE one, CM Punk is wrestling again, Daniel Bryan's wrestling again. None of them will sign for us though, because we're just still little old WCW. Unfortunately as well, because I just reactivated WCW rather than creating them anew, we got the positives of we've got all our old titles and our title history back, but we also have a big debt. We're £1 million in debt. Signing the wrestlers that we've signed has left us nearly $1.5 million in debt, and we need to sort ourselves out, and quick. Our first pay-per-view, New Blood Rising, is in 3 weeks time. We're back with Nitro every Monday. We can only have Nitro at the moment because we can't launch Thunder as a second show until this one's been on air for 3 months. So we have a new roster full of talent. We've got 3 episodes of Nitro to build to a pay-per-view where we have to do well, or else financially we find ourselves in real serious trouble. So Monday Nitro is back, and this is our pre-show match for our very first episode. And it's obvious, I mean, these are all going to be new signings. We're not going to introduce them all as such, but we do have Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne having a little scrap in the pre-show. Pete Dunne defeating Tyler Bate. It only gets an E+, and it's going to be that same old thing again, where because they're relatively unknown in America, and we're very much a sports entertainment company, that we're going to struggle to get them over until they're over with the crowd, and then their ratings will start to go up. But that's why we're sticking them on the pre-show. We're going to try and build these two guys up as much as possible because they're English and they're awesome. But for now, stick them on the pre-show, get a little bit of experience into them. An E+ is pretty shocking, but that's why it's good that we didn't put it on the main show. And, oh dear, Pete Dunne has sustained a bruised coccyx. I mean, if that's a proper injury that keeps him out for a little while, that can cause problems to some of the plans that we've got. Oh, I thought Tyler Bate was injured as well. No, Tyler Bate's got some backstage heat because he was felt to be to blame for Pete Dunne getting hurt. Oopsie. Right, we're getting to Nitro properly. Forget all that. None of that even happened. Eric Bischoff is standing in the middle of a WCW ring for the first time in 16 years and just welcoming everybody back. WCW is back. The titles are back. Unfortunately, none of the wrestlers are back because they're all pensioners now, or if they're not, they're well established within WWE or elsewhere. But Eric Bischoff himself is back. He's happy to be here, and he's announcing a world title tournament, the final of which is going to be at the pay-per-view, which I can't remember the name of now. New Blood Rising, is that what it was called? I have to... It is called New Blood Rising. I had to check my magical spreadsheet. The final of it's going to be at that, but we've got 4 first round elimination matches that are all going to take place tonight. Then we'll have the semi-finals next week, and then that gives us a little bit of time to get ourselves ready for the final. We're also going to have a 10-man battle royal for the US title, and we're going to start establishing a little bit of a tag team division with a view to there being a tag team title match at the pay-per-view. It's not going to be a tournament because we don't have enough tag teams yet, and there's also going to be a tournament for the vacant women's title, and there's going to be the first of 2 fatal 4-way matches. The winner of each of those matches is going to compete for the title at the pay-per-view. The whole segment gets a B-. Everybody loves Eric Bischoff because he's returned WCW to the world, and now we're all eager to find out who else has been signed. We know Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are here, but we don't know who the stars of the new WCW are going to be. And it's time to start meeting some of them. And we start things off with Wade Barrett versus John Morrison. I have reverted people to their WWE names almost exclusively, or if they've never been in WWE, they've gone on to whatever their most famous name was. So I know John Morrison doesn't go by that anymore and might even be better known. He's probably not better known now, is he? So it'll be John Morrison, and Wade Barrett, we had to change back to his WWE name as well. But this is a world title tournament match, and Barrett defeated Morrison in 8 minutes. We get a C rating. Both wrestlers get a C rating as well. Melina is knocking around as John Morrison's manager as well, and she's below average on her seductress gimmick. But we've got a face Morrison and a heel Barrett. Barrett gets an average rating on his gimmick, and Morrison gets a very good rating on his gimmick. So all in all, fairly decent opening match, a C rating to reopen WCW, not a disaster by any stretch of the imagination. And then we move into that fatal four-way women's match that we talked about. Melina just hangs around and stays out there, and she's joined by Mia Yim. Some of these I don't actually know from real life. I've just kind of picked them out of the ether. Courtney Rush, who I believe is known as Rosemary in TNA, Global Force, whatever nonsense it's called. But her character in that is stupid, apart from when she was involved with the Broken Hardys. And she also wrestles as Courtney Rush elsewhere, so we're going to give her that name and lose the stupid face paint. And Angelina Love is involved as well, with Melina rounding out the four. And it is Mia Yim who defeats the four of them with a submission on Angelina Love. And Morrison is out there managing Melina, and performance-wise, it looks like we picked one of the two better performers for picking up the win. Mia with a D minus, Courtney Rush with a D minus, and the other two picking up E pluses. It advances our women's title storyline. We get a D minus on the match overall. It's same as with previous Total Extreme Wrestling saves we've done. It's going to take a little while to get the ladies over, which is why we're starting to pair them right from the word go with some of our bigger name men's wrestlers. For example, Melina and John Morrison. It just makes sense to have them hanging around together. Melina's then going to grow off the back of whatever Morrison goes on to achieve. See, Kev's thinking about all this. And then we move into our next segment, which is Matt Morgan, who apparently is very, very good on the microphone. And a man who's very good on the microphone sounds like the kind of man to help improve a successful female wrestler. So he just congratulates Mia Yim on her win. It gets a C plus overall. And a segment of great on Matt Morgan's gimmick. And it went over quite well. It gives Mia Yim a little boost. And everyone's happy. And then we have the next of our world title first round matches, and it's Bobby Lashley, who gave up his Global Force TNA title, whatever he was holding, to come to WCW. And he takes on Ryback and defeated him with a pin in 8 minutes. Gets a B minus on the match. Lashley debuts his face gimmick with a great rating. Ryback is a heel. He gets an average. They both get C pluses on the match, but we get a B minus overall. So I guess the two of them working together made the match better than either of its component parts. I don't really know. Perhaps we need to pair these two together a little more often, because a B minus is a pretty decent storyline, and it just so happens I'd already thought, oh, Kev, what are you doing with your planning? You're on form tonight. We've already got a Lashley versus Ryback storyline up and running as well. The man's a genius. Let's get into our next match, and our next match is a tag team match, and it's the Young Bucks versus Evan Bourne and Ricochet, who I understand they're a tag team sometimes, but it hasn't gone over very well. We only get a D minus on the segment. Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson debuting the same gimmick, but for Matt Jackson it's very good. For Nick Jackson, only average, and Matt is off his game. Evan Bourne with his thrill seeker gimmick is great. Ricochet, fan favourite, great. The Young Bucks obviously work well together, but disappointingly, no one getting above a D. I would have expected better from everyone involved in that match, really. I hope this isn't another database that's going to have these problems with these indie guys, and it's only going to be the former WWE and the TNA lot who end up doing any good. Because you'd think in a situation like this, the Young Bucks turn up and they're going to establish themselves as awesome straight away. But obviously it's going to take a little bit of time to build them up to awesome. That's fine. We'll take a little bit of time. Let's move on to our next segment, if it lets me. Next segment, please. Thank you. And we have our 10-man battle royal for the US title. So we get to find out basically who our entire mid-card is going to be. So we've got Adam Cole, Carlito, Cody Rhodes, Jack Swagger, Jay Lethal, MVP, Matt Morgan, Moose, Mr. Kennedy and Ted DiBiase Jr. And the winner and new United States champion is Jay Lethal. And if you really want to know whether they're face or heel and what gimmicks they've got, you can just sort of pause and have a look at this as we scroll through. But we don't need to look through all of them. The important thing is we have our first WCW champion. Not world champion, US champion is Jay Lethal, and congratulations Jay Lethal. The final four in the match were Lethal, Cody Rhodes, Mr. Kennedy and Ted DiBiase. We get a C- on the match, and we don't get individual wrestler ratings for that one, I guess, because there was too many of them. But yay, we have a US champion, and off the back of that, goodness me if it isn't Paul Heyman turned up. What's Paul Heyman doing in the ring? Well, Paul Heyman is introducing you to his newly reformed Dangerous Alliance. I mean, if we're WCW and we've managed to sign Paul Heyman, then obviously we have to have a Dangerous Alliance. Now, again, obviously none of the original ones are available, but why not just form our own? So a couple of them we've met already. In fact, most of them we've met already. But our new Dangerous Alliance in this new WCW is going to be EC3 off of Global Force Wrestling, who we haven't met yet, but we'll probably meet him later on this evening. Ted DiBiase Jr. and Jack Swagger, who are both in the Battle Royal. Pete Dunne, who's now injured, but still making his way to the ring for this. And Madison Eagles, who, full disclosure, I've never heard of, but she looked quite good on the whole thing, so I thought I'd bring her in, and because I don't know who she is, just stick her with this slot and hope it makes her awesome. We get a B- on the segment, mainly because Paul Heyman is a hero, but also Ethan Carter is considered very good on the mic as well, so the two of those being very good on the mic is going to help the other four involved in that faction improve their overness. That's the plan for it anyway. Unfortunately, EC3 only getting an average for his new gimmick, or his existing gimmick, really. And Madison Eagles, again, an average on her gimmick. But I just hope these two can rub off on those four, and that'll be enough to elevate all of them. That's the entire plan there. And then we move into our next first round match for the World Title Tournament. It's Ethan Carter III, who we just met, against Shelton Benjamin, and EC3 does win 8 minutes, 9 minutes really, with a pin. Gets a C+ for the match. Both Ethan Carter and Shelton Benjamin picking up C's. Shelton Benjamin debuting as a face with his franchise player gimmick. Paul Heyman doing well at ringside, and I mean, it all goes okay. Ethan Carter obviously better on the mic than he is in the ring at the moment, which isn't a disaster because most of the rest of the roster are probably the other way around. So I can handle a few people who can just talk good. He can be our Miz. I've only seen him like 3 times. Is he capable of doing that? The stats say he is. And then we have a promo, and we actually have a WCW original. It was really challenging. I mean, it's been 16 years. It's hard to find any who are still active and worth signing, but Rey Mysterio is certainly one of those. So we get a promo from Rey Mysterio in the middle of the ring, just talking about how proud he is to finally be back in WCW. He debuts his fan favourite gimmick. It goes over well. He only gets a C+ for the segment, but Rey Mysterio was never that great on the mic, was he? But it's good to have a proper WCW original involved in this newly reformed company. And Mysterio goes straight into his and the final of the evening. First knockout round for the WCW title match. It's Rey Mysterio versus Damien Sandow, and Mysterio does pick up the win with a pin. Sandow debuts his genius gimmick, which is above average. Mysterio gets a C+, which I'm surprised at. I would have expected him to do better than that. Sandow a D+, and we get a C+ on the match. And that concludes our first Monday Nitro in 16.5 years, and it gets a C overall, mainly because there's not enough storylines going on. Well, obviously there's not, because they all started tonight, but overall that's not a disaster at all. No majorly disastrous segments. The big disappointment is the Young Bucks and Evan Bourne and Ricochet. That's a bit of a worry. The ladies have done better than expected, and I'm surprised that really the top segment of the whole show was Paul Heyman debuting his new Dangerous Alliance, which I put Mysterio on as the headliner because I assumed him to be the star of the new WCW, but maybe Paul Heyman's the star of the new WCW. But we get to see overall, and we've increased popularity in 28 regions. That can't be a bad thing. We need to start bringing in some of that money. We're now 2 shows out from our pay-per-view. And let me know down in the comments who you think is going to be our first WCW champion. Who else you expect to see me sign, because you've not met the whole roster yet. There's a few more faces going to be showing up over the next couple of weeks. And who you think I should sign, who you think maybe I haven't already considered. And I'll certainly go and see if I can find out if they're available or not. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching.